Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinker's Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer, and in this video I'd like to talk with you about gas therapy. Now this is the idea of using gases in place of pharmaceuticals for things like pain management, wound healing, general health, and all sorts of different applications that has been in play in the clinical setting for decades. And so now there are multiple different kinds of gases that you could use. And so the idea here is which one is right for you. So let's talk about that. Now, first, I've got a disclaimer. It's a typical disclaimer. Work with your physician. Don't take advice from strangers on internet and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's all of that. Now, the links to everything I'm discussing, all the research, products, you name it, and all that's going to be in the video description. So if you got any questions, you want to do your own research, then go ahead and click on the video description for those links and so forth. So now, let's just jump in. So what is gas therapy? And as I just said, it's essentially to replace what you would maybe sometimes go and get a pharmaceutical for. It's supplementation. It's something that you could do to help your body heal for general health and so forth. And so it's the main idea though about gases, and this is what really is pronounced in the literature and all the research that I've done, is that it as a substitute for pharmaceuticals, okay, the absolute lack of side effects is huge, and there's no addictive. So like, let's say you're using a gas for pain management. Well, you're not going to get addicted to it like you would an opioid, and that's a huge issue, obviously, right? And then the whole idea behind, if you decide to go with gas and you buy your own gas generator, you don't have to keep going back to the pharmacy over and over and over for whatever it is your doctor prescribed you. So it's a really interesting and viable alternative to pharmaceuticals that also, has been prescribed by doctors as well, but also you can do it at home. So it's a really good way to kind of heal yourself, to take care of your health, also for biohacking in terms of anti-aging, for those of you who are into that. And that's what some of these gases can provide for you. And these benefits are all really sound and have been around for quite a while. So now there are numerous types of gases, and I'm going to just concentrate and focus on 4 different specific gases in this video. And the first one is going to be hydrogen, also known as molecular hydrogen, and then also oxygen therapy, and then ozone therapy, and then also this last one called Brown's gas. It's also called hydroxy or HHO. And the last one here, this Brown's gas, is relatively new for the use of using this gas for health, and there's been not a ton of research on that one yet, but it's coming along. So the whole idea here is that hydrogen is literally, it's just one of the gases. It's got basically 2 hydrogen atoms, and that's what it's H2, O2, same thing, 2 oxygen atoms connected together. Ozone now is where you've got 3 oxygen atoms connected together, very unstable. And so what happens when you start working with ozone is that it's not stable. That third little oxygen wants to just, atom wants to pop off and go off on its own, kind of. And so, and then at that point, you've got oxygen. But the whole idea, though, is you've got that extra little oxygen atom floating around in your body. And the combination is actually pretty healthy for you in terms of using it for health. And then, of course, there's the Brown's gas, which is H2 and O2 combined, and then it forms what they call hydroxy. And so this is it's a combination of the gases, and because it's a combination, it actually does some interesting things. So these are the 4 different gases I'll be talking about, and I want to share with you that I'm going to give you a summary of the research that I've done. I've spent quite a long time researching this. I've actually been using gases for my own supplementation, for my own health and healing for well over a decade. I actually started with ozone about 10 years ago, and about 5 years ago, I also got really into Brown's gas. And so now the research that I pulled, and I've got you links below in the video description, they come from the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. So if you wanted to actually look at the scientific studies, and if I go into that, it'd be like a 4-hour video. So I'm just going to give you a super high level overview summary of the research. And if you want to actually read the papers and read read the research, and this is where you would go. Links below in the video description. So there's the Molecular Hydrogen Institute. There's the American Lung Association website on the area of oxygen therapy. There's the Medical Ozone Research Institute, and then these are huge institutes. They've been around for decades and decades and decades, and the science of these gases used for healthcare, medical, and treatment has just goes back. There's just a ton of science behind it. There's no question as to what it does and the fact that it works. Okay, and so there's also been books written about it by several different doctors who've done tons of studies on it. And so these books are anything from the Hydrogen Medicine book, Flood Your Body with Oxygen, and the Ozone Miracle. These three books are not available in the video links description, but I do have a Telegram chat group, which I actually do a book of the day, so they may come up in the near future as giveaways. So if you want to just come down to our chat group, you can join me there and probably get access to the books. But if you want to actually take a look at the research studies and so forth, these are the three institutes you can go to, and you can definitely do your own research, but let me go ahead and give you a summary here in a second. Now, the last one here is the Brown's gas research. As I mentioned, it's fairly new to the health environment. Now, all of these gases, okay, have been used. They have industrial and commercial usage, and they've been used for all sorts of different industrial purposes. And same thing with Brown's gas. And so they all have this root, this foundation in using them in industry, and then they've been used for health as well. For all this time. Brown's gas is the latest addition to that concept of using a gas for health. There's not a lot of research. No one's written a book about it. There's no website, there's no institute or anything about it, but I have done extensive research in Brown's gas, and I compiled a page on my blog that lists every possible clinical study I can find, every study I could find specific to Brown's gas. I've also done videos about the specifics of brown gas and what makes it unique. It's not just combining, hydrogen and oxygen. There's a lot more going on. And so there's actually the link to the video description. In the video description is a link to my page on my blog where you can access all the research that I've been able to collect on Brown's gas. It seems to be the only place. There are some vendors who sell Brown's gas generators who have, like research links in their websites. And so those are good places to go to if you want to research Brown's gas. But of the other three, heavily researched institutes exist and tons of studies. Okay, so now here's the high level summary of what these things do. Okay, now, so right off the bat, what are the benefits of hydrogen therapy? And so now, one of the things, hydrogen is an inert gas with no known side effects. Now, it's an antioxidant, it's an anti-inflammatory, and anti-apoptic. It has anti-apoptic effects. Okay, I hope I pronounced that right. I practiced that for like 10 minutes here. Now, the study suggests that H2 may have the following benefits. And now there's a lot of different benefits. I won't read you the whole slide, but the bottom line, though, is it's really beneficial for cardioprotective, especially in the anti-inflammatory. And then it also it reduces smooth muscle cell proliferation. It increases vascular density, chronic inflammation, prevention of renal injury, all these incredible things that it does. And one of the things that it does, it can actually convert epigenetic markers in your body. And what that means is that not only does it heal, it helps your body heal, it also has its own properties, and it goes after toxins. It's an electron donor, if you understand. Electron donors and electron stealers, toxins, pathogens, bad stuff is electron stealers. They come in your body and they start grabbing electrons off of your molecules. That causes inflammation and damage. And then you take anti-inflammatories, which are electron donors, that go and then basically neutralize all the toxins and pathogens, right? That's what anti-inflammatories do. And so now this is like hydrogen literally is like the super ultimate anti-inflammatory supplement you could take. It's even better than C60 in terms of, because if its size is so much smaller, it can go anywhere in your body, and so it is just this amazing anti-inflammatory thing. But because it affects epigenetic markers in your body, it really can help you regulate something called autophagy, which is your body's ability to get rid of old nascent or senescent cells in your body, cells that, they make a copy of a copy as they regenerate, and after a while, making a copy of a copy of a copy, these cells get mutated and damaged, and then they're alive, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and your body tries to flush them out through this process called autophagy. And what this gas does is that it actually helps do that. And so these are just some of the incredible benefits of hydrogen. It's just one of the amazing super gases of our time. And it's amazing how many people haven't really kind of latched onto this as a therapy, because it is so super helpful for you. Now, the next one here is oxygen therapy. And you'd kind of just common sense. What is oxygen? And oxygen's primary benefit to us, now obviously we all need it, but the primary benefit is for people who have lung problems, and it's really, really, really helpful in that regard. And so one of the things about oxygen therapy, definitely can help people feel better, stay active, because they get more oxygen, for people that are have a problem, in terms of just basically getting enough oxygen in through their lungs, and that causes all sorts of problems if they can't. So giving people like that oxygen therapy is super helpful. Obviously decreases shortness of breath, and it also helps lung disease patients feel less breathless, But it also acts as a tissue damage and it helps with, tissue damage and death, associated with radiation. It really helps with wounds. It's been used to treat flesh-eating bacteria and carbon monoxide poisoning, decompression sickness, and all sorts of different things. And it actually is really good for skin grafts. If you've ever had a severe burn, sorry, they can use oxygen. They can bag your arm or whatever area is burned, and they just pump oxygen into it. And that's really helpful for, in terms of wound healing and tissue regeneration. So it is one of the primary tools that you'll see used in the clinical setting whenever someone comes in and they've got obviously lung problems, breathing problems, and so forth. So oxygen in itself is super helpful. Our bodies need it. Our bodies also need hydrogen. That's where hydrogen is a natural byproduct of fiber that you eat. I don't know if you knew that. Whenever you eat fiber, it goes into your gut microbiome starts, chomping away on it. And then the output of that is hydrogen. It just, your gut microbiome produces the hydrogen your body needs. And if you don't have enough fiber, then you're hydrogen deficient. Guess what? Almost everybody is hydrogen deficient because they don't get enough fiber. Anyway, so now the next one is ozone. Now, ozone is really unique. It's very different than the other three because you cannot breathe it. Okay, it really has extremely strong oxidation effect. And so in the industry world, it's awesome for getting rid of odors and eliminating mold and all of those kinds of things. So that's why you never can breathe this. Now, there are people out in the ozone sphere that say you can breathe it if you bubble it through oil first, but I've never tried it. And it's just, to me, it's like, it's just one of those red flags. Don't ever do that. However, there are people that say you can. Power to them, let them give it a try, and that's kind of out there for debate. However, now the other ways you could take ozone, though, obviously, is you bubble it in water, and there's other ways to apply it to yourself. So the idea of ozone therapy, it was introduced in the United States in the early 80s. It's been used in Europe far longer than that. There's all these, the governing bodies that have been working with ozone for a long time. And what they found in the science studies using ozone is that it activates the immune system for infectious diseases, because it's kind of a form. It is definitely a form of oxygen therapy, but it's got that extra little atom, right? And so when that extra atom gets loose in your body, it does extra stuff that oxygen just won't do by itself. So, one of the other things it's found to do is it improves cellular utilization of oxygen for cardiac diseases, or release of growth factors, stimulates damaged joints. And that's one of the most interesting things when you start watching videos about these individual therapies. One of the things that you'll see is a lot of periodontists use ozone for basically cleaning out cavities in your mouth, disinfecting the mouth, that sort of thing. And then also you'll find a lot of orthopedics will do injections of ozone into joints, and they have this incredible regenerative effect for not only helping your knees or your joints heal, but also in terms of helping the wound heal faster as well. So you'll see a lot of different medical practitioners using ozone in those regards, but also too you can also use it in a way called EBO, where you can actually then use it to get rid of pathogens in your bloodstream. So something that nobody does with hydrogen or oxygen. So ozone has its own unique little world going on in terms of its ability to help everything from allergies, arthritis, asthma, cancer, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, heart disease, infections, Lyme. So ozone, probably above the other two or three gases, is definitely the more pronounced healing gas that you would use to just get rid of pathogens, help your body regenerate, help your body heal, and eliminate all the infections and problem areas that you're having issues with. And so, I had an interesting interview last week with Dr. Nadine Johnson, a naturopathic physician, and she was mentioning to me that 1/3 of the patients she gets, and she's been in practice for decades, come from just people who are aware, they're self-aware, they've done their research, they know what health, the quote, what I guess the modern medicine people like to call alternative, I call traditional, because it's been around for much longer. But people that are more traditional, organic minded, will go out and seek out naturopath. But 2/3 end up with naturopaths because they're just frustrated and fed up with the medical system. And if that's you, then this is something you definitely want to consider, because if you haven't gotten any results from, like whether you've got, problems with your knees, problems with pain, problems with fibromyalgia, I hope I'm pronouncing that one right, all of those kinds of problems. And if you just haven't had any success because of all the pills you're getting prescribed and all the stuff they're making you do, if you haven't tried ozone, you might want to think about it and give it a try. Okay, so because it's kind of like the wonder gas for those types of things. Now, the next thing is, again, the Brown's gas, and so I just wanted to kind of point out again that it's really only been discovered that it was useful for health up till then, that it's actually been used with cars, getting better gas mileage, as well as used as a gas for welding. But up around 2006, it was discovered that it had health benefits as well, and it is a little unique. I've done videos on it separately, in terms of what makes it unique. Like, again, it's not just a combination of the two, but there's a lot more going on because of the way that the gas is actually generated. Now, I was only able to find one study. It's on my blog where it was successfully treated COVID-19 patients, and so that's the only study so far that's specific to Brown's gas out there in the world. It is really quite new. And so most of the information about Brown's gas in terms of its benefits have come from user reports who have reported tons of different successes that have been equal to, if not better, than H2, O2, and O3 combined. And that's what makes it so interesting to me. That's why I got into it. And just as a side note, to me, one of the incredible benefits of Brown's gas, I've been inhaling and drinking bubbled water with Brown's gas in it for 5 years now. Is that prior to those 5 years, I was a lifetime asthmatic. So asthmatic, and so I've just I'm typical asthmatic. Used to carry around a puffer. Had a P-kick little device where I have to take the P-kick. Not so bad that I had to be on nebulizers, but the whole idea though is that I suffered from asthma my entire life. And I had all the different prescriptions, and I always had to get them refilled, always had to carry these things around, always had problems, had bronchitis dozens of times, had pneumonia 4 times. It's just always had major lung problems. And then after starting Brown's gas 5 years ago, I have not had an attack once in 5 years. And for an asthmatic to say they haven't had an attack in 5 years is miraculous, actually. And I just want a disclaimer here that I smoke cigars. I love cigars. It's my thing. I've been smoking them since I was a teenager. Not crazy like George Burns, but I enjoy a cigar a day. and so I still smoke cigars, and certainly wasn't helping my asthma up until 5 years ago. But honestly, I still have a cigar a day. I'm still asthmatic, and I haven't had an attack. So there's my little personal testimony there about Brown's gas. So now, to kind of summarize these benefits, okay, is it kind of comes into these 3 major areas of benefits. There's this health aspect. We're just doing it just for the heck of it, just in helping your health, helping you feel better, helping all the different, like let's say you're in good health, but you just want to maintain your health or get healthier, then these gases are remarkable for that. There's also the benefit of healing, again, as I mentioned, and also that anti-aging aspect. So now the thing about these 3 key attributes of the gases, and from the research that I have gone through, is that I just want to point out that in the area of just health and healing, ozone and oxygen therapy seem to be that's their thing. That's where they really shine. If you are looking at an alternative, you're tired of not seeing any improvement, or you're just a DIY or self-sufficient character, and you just want to take charge of your own health, be your own healer, kudos to you. And you've got health and healing issues, and that's your priority. That's your that's how I got got into it too. I got into it because I just wanted to try an alternative to pain management. And so I got into ozone, and also for healing in terms of it's part of the Bob Beck protocol, if you ever heard of that. So, but ozone and oxygen work really well in this world of health and healing. And then, but in terms of like a super gas, it's where I see hydrogen and Brown's gas really come into play, where it really touches all three. And it really shines for all three, where you've got this third component of anti-aging, where it becomes the superstar in terms of gas, for gas therapy. And that's where, for those of you who actually are interested in this extra component of anti-aging, helping your body, slow down the ravages of what causes you to age, then it's this extra thing where not only does hydrogen and Brown's gas really come into play with health, and also healing, but also to anti-aging. So that's kind of where I kind of place the star here in the middle, where I think that, I think it's the super gas really at the end of the day, when reading all this research. So now, obviously, you've got questions, right? Now, if that's any interest to you, and you're like, yeah, I want to try it, or I've been trying it, or I want to try something else. So here's the thing. Now, how do you experience gas therapy? So how do you, if you've never done any of this, you've never even heard of gas therapy, not a surprise, because, most doctors just want to prescribe you medication. However, if you wanted to try something different, now how would you do it? Now, in a clinical setting, dug around, spent some time searching the internet. Now, obviously, you can get clinical setting. You can have oxygen in a clinical setting. You can have ozone in a clinical setting. There are physicians out there that do those therapies in their clinics, and that's just a no-brainer. You can find that anywhere. But I really was hard-pressed to find any clinical settings for hydrogen. Now, I do know that they actually use it, but whether or not you can, it can get prescribed to you, or you can go out and find a doctor that does it. I'm a big question mark there. I wasn't able to readily find anything in the clinical area for hydrogen therapy, and there was none. There's nothing for Brown's gas therapy in the clinical setting. It's just too new. No one's doing it. Now, in a commercial setting, now if you've probably seen articles, news articles, and things like that, and stories about the hydrogen bars. Especially it's kind of a big thing in Japan. And there are some, I do know of some in the United States, where they've got hydrogen bars where, basically it's a commercial setting outside of a medical practice where you can just go and just sit there and breathe hydrogen while you're having your little water or whatever. And then same thing, they have in those hydrogen bars, they usually have oxygen bars. And so you can kind of go in and kind of just, inhale oxygen or inhale hydrogen while you're sitting in a commercial setting like that. Now, I don't know, I didn't find anything where it was like a, ozone bar or anything like that. Ozone is pretty much in the clinical world, but in commercial world, if you can look in your city, you may there might actually be a hydrogen bar in your city where you can go and actually, experience hydrogen or oxygen therapy right there in a commercial setting. Brown's gas, again, nothing in that area. But now for the thing about it, now for me, I'm a big DIY, I'm a be your own healer guy. And so as my own healer, definitely there are home options for all four of these. And I actually do Brown's gas and ozone for myself. I've got generators for that. Now in the home environment, you can easily experience hydrogen by you can buy tablets that dissolve in water that bubbles the hydrogen in the water. You can buy tanks of oxygen that are readily available. You can even get them on Amazon, or then you could get a generator. Now all of them you can have a generator that'll generate the gas, all four of them. And then for oxygen specifically, you can get a concentrator where, basically there's no such thing as an oxygen generator. It's called an oxygen concentrator. And so these are all, and, you see those ads, AARP, the little lady's got the little packet thing, or the little, tag along thing on a stroller, oxygen concentrators. And that's what a lot of the elderly folks you see in those commercials they're dragging around as an oxygen concentrator so they can have oxygen. But that's the idea, though, for home use, is that you can have tablets and tanks and generators and concentrators, and it's absolutely 100% doable at home. Now, the thing about using it at home, though, and I just want to point out that, there are accessories involved. And so the accessories that, basically is, you'd have to buy a cannula for the breathing. No big deal on water and glasses, obviously. But I do want to point out that with hydrogen and oxygen and Brown's gas, it's pretty straightforward. you're going to be breathing them, so you'll have a cannula. If you're going to drink it, you have water, bubble of water in a glass. But the thing about if you wanted to go beyond that, in terms of taking dosages, there's a lot of accessories that come along with these things, and that's something to keep in mind. So if you wanted to, let's say, what are my dosing options for gas therapy? Well, right off the bat, now there's inhalation. Again, I covered that. Water, covered that, and the others. And this is where it comes into play, where there's all these accessories, right? So now if you wanted to do it at home, no problem, absolutely possible. But the thing about the accessories, though, is when you get into the other, so if you want to do inhalation, and then you want to bubble water. Now, here's some of the research benefits, the research indications, right? Here's an example. A therapeutic dose of hydrogen is bubbling the water with a one way or another, tablets or a bottle or a generator. You bubble hydrogen in a water, but you need to drink about 1.5 liters per day for, quote, therapeutic dose per the studies. Now, also from the inhalation standpoint, like if you're sitting on the couch, or you work at home, or even in the office, you can set up a little generator and put up a cannula. You look weird, but hey, you're doing it for your health. And so you can basically take in inhalation and water, but the inhalation is like at minimum 4 hours a day, and you space that out around, throughout the day. So breathing it in and drinking bubbled water is usually the medical approach, as opposed to a non-medical approach, in terms of trying to experience the benefits of the studies that have been put out there and everything that I mentioned earlier. So you want to do inhalation and water. And that's my recommendation, not one or the other, because there are studies that do one or the other, but the bottom line at the end of the day, the summary is that if you do both at the same time, that's where you get the best bang for your buck. Now that other stuff, right, is you can experience or dose the gases topically through your skin. And so now you can do that with all of the gases by bagging. And so the thing about bagging is, those plastic bags you put over casks. Yeah, you just get some of those. You can do that with hydrogen and Brown's gas and oxygen, okay? Can't do that with ozone. There's a reason. I'll give you a second. But if you want to just bag, you just get one of those bags, you put the tube in the bag, and it fills up, and then you just sit there for 20, 30 minutes while you're just basically concentrating that gas, wherever on your body you want. Bagging, obviously, is typically for arms and legs. Now, if it's like somewhere on your torso, you can have a cup. There's cupping where you can get cups, and you can pump the gas into the cup, and you can literally hold the cup over a wounded area. Let's say you're trying to heal a surgical wound, or you got a burn, or that sort of thing. You can cup over it. And now with hydrogen and Brown's gas, you can pretty much use anything. You can use a silicone dog bowl for as simple as that. You just poke a hole in it and get that gas going into that cup. And there's also the idea of submersion. Now, submersion is basically, sitting in a tub with the gas bubbling through the tub. And the thing about that is it's really difficult because that much water to get the medical dose of the gas within that water requires quite a large generator. And then there are actual generators out there, and there's only one that I know of, that you hook up to your generator, right? So you take a nano bubbler, you hook up to a generator, and you put the bubblers in the water. You can literally take a hydrogen bath, but you have to have this nano bubbler thing to just kind of basically, pump enough gas in there. It's in a nano bubble state for you to be able to benefit, from a submersion dosage, right? There's also the idea of hyperbaric. Now, oxygen, as from all the old days, back in the way, like 100 years ago, there was that whole big polio epidemic, and everybody ended up in hyperbaric chambers, and now it's used as a medical treatment. So you can actually get hyperbaric treatment with oxygen, which is basically pressurized. You got to put you in a can with your head sticking out, and they just increase the pressure and pump in oxygen, and the oxygen is literally infused into your body through pressure. And they only do that with oxygen, from my research. Now, I don't know of any hyperbaric ozone, but you can also get like a little tent, like those little spa tents, and you stick your head out, and you can pump in ozone, and you can get a full body ozone treatment that way. Let's say if you've got issues with your skin, you want to do your whole body at one point. So you can definitely do that type of an approach, but it's not hyperbaric, it's not pressurized. And so that's another way to actually do it at home. These are all home ways to do it, do it at home, DIY. Now, there's a process with ozone called EBU, and they don't do this with any of the other gases. Oh, it's specific to ozone. Now, EBU is where they basically, you go into a clinical setting and they take your blood out of you. They run it through an ozone machine, and they basically pump ozone into your blood, right? And they pump it back into you. And so for those of you who don't mind having your blood, go on a field trip and then come back later on as it gets treated outside of your body, then it's been found to be extremely beneficial for your health if that's something you're into. There's also insufflation, which is and this has been quite, I'm not someone who does stuff like this, but insufflation has been it's written in the literature that it's just incredibly beneficial for digestion, or primarily not digestion, but the next level down, in terms of everything that's going on in your colon and your intestines, because it just pumps all of the ozone up into your bottom half of your body through your rectum, and then basically just treats anything. So if people with leaky gut, IBS, you name it, find a lot of benefit from insufflation in terms of pumping ozone up your behind. Okay, so that's another way to do it. You can do it at home, in the privacy of your own home. Which probably would be best. And so that's really there's lots of different options, and I kind of wanted to point those out to you in terms of doing it yourself at home, different gases. And there are obviously certain things that I want to caution about, is that hydrogen, oxygen, and Brown's gas are extremely flammable. And so now all of the commercial products that are sold in the United States by United States manufacturers, okay, now they have included in them that I've seen, have not a lot, but they have all of the safety features built into them so you don't blow yourself up. And that is incredibly important, as you can imagine. And so one of the more incredible important pieces to it, they've got basically little switches in them and little levers inside of them, so that it monitors and minimizes the amount of the gas that's going to come in and mix with ambient air as you're breathing it, so that you're getting the correct dosage, but not so much that it could be flammable. Right? So it's usually around 4%. So if you're taking in 4% hydrogen or oxygen or Brown's gas, it's mixing with the air as you're breathing. Okay, you just got the cannula in your nose and you're breathing. So you're getting the gas, but you're not getting 100% of what you're breathing is not the gas. Okay, that's not how it works. So you're just breathing in some of it. So as it's being pumped into your nose, you're also breathing in outside air. And so at the end of the day, you're getting about a 4% mixture, which is safe. And then if it happens to come anywhere near a spark or anything like that, your lungs won't blow, and also the flame won't go into the generator and blow the tank. So these safety features are critical. And that's why if you're going to go out and get a product, you want to really look at the safety features. And, there are a lot of folks that go and build their own Brown's gas generators, their own hydrogen generators. Well, yeah, that's great, and you can do it, and if that works for you. But if you're doing a build your own thing, and if you don't have your attention spent on the safety features, yeah, that's very, very dangerous. And I do not recommend doing that unless you know what you're doing. So I prefer to go to the experts who build these things, and they warranty them and they know what they're doing, so that they make them safe. Now, the other thing too about topical is that while you can bag hydrogen and Brown's gas and so forth, you got to be aware that once you concentrate it into kind of this bag, you got to be extremely careful about flames and sparks. So, if you've got high static electricity going on in your home, not recommended. So you got to be really attuned to the idea that this thing, when you accumulate that gas, the generator's safe. Using the generator, you're safe. But if you accumulate it in a bag, and I do all the time, then I have to be really cautious about, is there high static electricity right now in the house? So turn on the humidifier, and then that eliminates static electricity, or just making sure that, there's no flames anywhere around me, because that bag will go off And if you've ever seen the documentary about the Hindenburg, yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. So caution there, because some of these gases are quite flammable. Ozone, not an issue. And then the last thing about that ozone, about bagging, is ozone is extremely corrosive, okay? And so you can't just go and buy a regular bag off of Amazon. And even the tubing that you're using, it all has to be silicone, it has to be special bags. So if you want to do ozone bagging, which again is incredible healthy benefit, and that sort of thing, you need to go to a place that sells bags just for ozone. And they're this special kind of plastic polymer that won't deteriorate. And then all the cupping things are glass. So ozone, it's its own little world when it comes to topical, but if you do it right and you get the right equipment, you won't, your equipment will last you a long time. Okay, so there's that. Now, the last thing I want to cover is like, hey, what does this stuff cost if I wanted to do this stuff? And so now, again, if you just want to do inhalation, there are devices out there that only, that you can just do inhalation for hydrogen and oxygen, or you can just do water, or both, right? And now Brown's gas generators are both. All of them are both. You can do water and inhalation with both. Again, you don't do inhalation with ozone, but you can bubble the water, okay? And also you can do all the other stuff. You can bag and you name it. And so the costs here now, if you just wanted to get into hydrogen with a generator, like a hydrogen generator, it's as low as $800, and they go all the way up to like $2,500 for home use. Now, if you wanted to get a water, hydrogen generator, you can get a $300 water bottle. It's an actual bottle with a little thing on the bottom that produces hydrogen gas, or you can go all the way up to the $1,500 hydrogen pitchers, if you just want to do hydrogen water. Now, if you get a generator, it does both. Now, the other here in the world of hydrogen, again, is those tablets, and they usually run about $50 a bottle. Now, for oxygen, you can get tanks, oxygen concentrators, and oxygen tanks, and they're anywhere from $550 to $1,500 for both types of different devices. So you can just get, like a tank of oxygen or an oxygen concentrator, which then you could use to bubble water as well. So you're looking at $550 to $1,500 investment. And then, of course, other is, they got these little throwaway tanks you can buy now that just give you like a boost of oxygen. So let's say you're out hiking and you're going to go real high elevation, you can bring a little tank and you can just sit there and just, take a few hits of oxygen while you're up there high and you're hiking and you're out of breath. So that's kind of what people do now. They just carry oxygen with them. No, I'm not talking like, Mount Everest or anything. I'm just talking normal people, normal hiking. Now, ozone, basically they're just generators. They just generate and bubble water, or they do that insufflation, like I mentioned. You can't do EBO at home, by the way. There's no EBO at home. You can't have your blood taken out. You got to go to a clinic for that. But if you just want to do insufflation, or you want to do cupping, or you want to bubble water with ozone, then those ozone generators run anywhere from $850 to $1,500. Plus, you're going to be buying some accessories. You're going to buy the cups and the bags and the tubes and all of that stuff that goes with it. But it, in my mind, it's worth it. I have both. I've got ozone generator, I've got Brown's gas generator, and so forth. And then again, Brown's gas generators, they do run around $2,000 to $2,700. That does both. Okay. Inhalation and water. So I kind of wanted to show you just some information here. So let's say if you go on Amazon. Here you can see the pitcher that I mentioned. Here's a hydrogen water pitcher, or hydrogen water bottle, or a hydrogen generator, like these little guys, these little hydrogen generators. Like this was not even a bad price. Like $369. I guess I'm wrong. But that's kind of the price of these generators. So of course there's all these different bottles, pitchers, and little generators and so forth. That'll actually give you that. Now, if you get into the oxygen generator, when you get into the oxygen generators, you're going to find pretty much like these little throwaway tanks that I was mentioning, and concentrators and things like that. But then here's I don't know if they threw in an ozone generator here. So this is an ozone generator. This is actually the model I have. So I bought this years ago, and I connected and I took an oxygen an oxygen concentrator, and I plugged it into my ozone generator and then produced what they call medical grade ozone. Okay, and that's what I use for ozone. Now, this other device right here is they call it an ozone generator, but it's not for medical purposes. You can't connect a tube to this thing. It will not bubble water. What it's meant to do is to produce ozone in an open space. So like, let's say if you have odor problems in your home or mold problems and things like that, you can just put this thing in there, turn it on, and it'll kill everything in there. That's what it does. But yeah, definitely not. This is not a medical grade ozone generator. What you need to find for a medical grade ozone generator is you find one that has an oxygen input. Okay, because medical grade ozone is not the same as ozone from, let's say, a kitchen appliance. Let me see if I can find one here. Anyway, that's enough about the oxygen, right? Tanks and concentrators. But when you start talking about ozone, okay, there we go. Ozone generator. You get into these ozone generators like this one, but then you get into these guys right here. Now these are kitchen appliances. They're not, they don't have an input port for an oxygen. And the difference between the two is that a medical grade ozone generator will have an input for an oxygen source so that you're pumping oxygen in and the generator is making ozone from pure oxygen, which is different than these kitchen appliances here, which are basically pulling ambient air and then creating ozone with the ambient air. And so the output that it puts out has got nitrogen and helium and all these other gases in ambient air and hydrogen and ozone. So you can see the difference, right? Medical ozone is just ozone, and oxygen. And then these kitchen appliances are ozone and everything else that's in the air that you're breathing. And so the difference between the two is that, if you wanted to get medical results, medical ozone generator is the way you want to go. If you want to just use it for a kitchen appliance, which is great, by the way, for disinfecting produce, using it for, anything, you can just, use it for cleaning, and you can just all sorts of different things, removing odors and so forth. These are the different ozone appliances you can use as kitchen appliances. And then you've got house appliances. And just as an example, my daughter went to University of Hawaii in Hilo, and Hilo is in a tropical rainforest, and her car, when she came home for Christmas break, 3 weeks, went back home to Hilo, her car turned into a chia pet. I mean, the inside of it, she said, was just absolutely filled with mold. In just the 3 weeks she was gone. So I sent her an ozone generator, and so she put that thing in there, and it just turned it on and left it in there for a while. This one of these little guys, and then it killed all the mold, and then she just had to clean it up, wipe it down. But it did a great job. Now I use these things to get rid of odors. Also, I have one of these as well. So ozone getting rid of odors is awesome. Kitchen appliance, I actually have them all. I have this guy right here in my kitchen to clean my produce. I have one of these to get rid of the stinks that come up every now and then, and I have one of these. So yeah, real big into ozone. Now, in terms of hydrogen, as you noticed, there's only that one hydrogen generator on Amazon that they were that this was right here, like this guy right here. So I'm not familiar with this guy because my go-to, just honestly, is I go to Hydrogen for Health. One of my favorite sites for Brown's gas and hydrogen is this site. It's run by a guy named Steve Delvis, who's done a tremendously great job of just documenting everything. And this is his YouTube channel. He's just documented almost everything you could possibly ask for, asked to want to know about hydrogen and Brown's gas, and then different ways to use it and the different equipment that's available. So he's just really, really, really up on just making, communicating and educating and so forth. And his site he actually sells these products. And so I actually bought mine. I bought one of mine from him. I actually have three of these, three different Brown's gas generators. So I actually own the H2 Life right here. And so I've been using this guy for 5 years. The reason I have more than one is I don't like lugging around the big one. So I have a big one next to my desk in my office, my home office. And then I've got this little guy who's next to the couch where I sit at night. And so I just kind of inhale at night using my H2 Life, and it works out just perfectly for me. I get my full 4 to 6 hours a day of just inhalation by having, generators in different places in my house. And I've also owned bottles, but I kind of switched from bottles to generators a while back. But this is the H2 Life Brown's gas generator, which I own, and I swear by it. It works fantastic, and the customer service is exceptional. So that's kind of why I just really, really like Hydrogen for Health. Now they also sell like these little guys right here, which is. And these, by the way, these are all warranted and so forth, and with the highest quality of equipment. You can, and I want to state it out loud, you can go on Alibaba or AliExpress, and you can find Chinese knockoffs But I'll tell you what, if you talk to Steve, you will find out a great deal about the quality of the metal in them and how long they last. And it's going to be one of those cheap knockoff things that's not going to last you very long. No customer service, no warranty, and that's why you're getting such a great deal. And so, but it's a choice, right? But for me, I want to buy from someone I can talk to who stands by their products. And so Steve also sells hydrogen generators, like this little puppy right here for around $7.95. He's got the pictures and so forth. And so, really, he's got all the accessories I talked about, and then he's got the hydrogen generators. Now, the hydrogen generators that he sells are just top of the line, high quality, and so forth. And so, on and on and on. But anyway, so this is my go-to. So if you had any questions about, hey, I want to get a hydrogen generator or a Brown's gas generator, this is my go-to, and I just want to point it out to you. And also, if you want to learn anything more about that, by the way, all the links in the video description. Here's a link to the Hydrogen for Health YouTube channel. Okay, so you can kind of take a look at all the stuff that Steve has to say. Now, my other one for ozone that I want to point out is my go-to for ozone. Now, before I really got into ozone, as I mentioned, I went to Amazon and I bought a medical ozone generator and an oxygen concentrator, and then that was over 10 years ago. And so since that time, this site popped up, and it's been going strong for for all that time now. And so this site right here has now become my go-to. And specifically, I started coming to this site because one of the things that I discovered was that I needed all these accessories. I needed cups and I needed filters and so forth. And so I started buying my ozone glassware from this site. Then I started buying my ozone, all my ozone supplies. So I get all my ozone supplies here. I still have my other, Amazon generator, but I'll tell you what, if I had to do it all over again, I would just go here. For Promolife is like the one-stop shop for if you're into ozone or you want to try ozone in terms of their packages that they've got. So you can kind of get they got like the starter package somewhere in here from a generator, and it comes with, a few of the basic, accessories that you would want to get. So it's definitely something that you might want to consider if you're looking into getting ozone, checking out the Promolife. And again, the thing about the Promolife website that I like is not only do they have everything you can possibly imagine, including oxygen tanks, right? If you wanted to get oxygen for your medical grade ozone generator, is also just like Steve over at Hydrogen for Health. They are really big, and I like this about certain websites, because certain websites, you could tell the difference between, hey, are they really into what they're doing? Are they subject matters in this stuff? Can they answer your questions and support their products? Do they, quote, know what they're really doing because they're selling you something you're going to use for your health? Well, when I see someone has a really deep YouTube channel and they spend a lot of time on customer education, so just like Steve Delvis at Hydrogen for Health, you could see how many hours of his life he spent on customer education and letting people know and be really transparent about the quality of his products. Well, same thing with Promolife. Promolife is the same one. That's why I like these two guys. These guys are my go-to, and I trust them because of all this information they put out and how much of a subject matter expert they are in this area, as opposed to some drop shipper, or an Amazon site, or even worse, like Alibaba. So that's kind of why I'm making this recommendation. If you're interested in getting into ozone, I highly recommend it. It has been incredible for all the different things I've used for, in terms of like wound healing and so forth. And then at the same time, this is where I would recommend as the go-to. You can take a look at every possible product he's made a video about, the different packages he's got. And I also want to point out all the different ways you could use ozone based on the different videos he's made. So here's that sonic steam cabinet kind of thing that I mentioned. You could use with ozone shorts. He's got this ozone head bag. You don't want to pull it over your nose, but you could just, if you had scalp issues, you could ozone your head, ozone, all these different things that he's got with ozone. Ozone for, you can basically use it for your dental. You can use it for your ears. You name it. I mean, there's all this stuff. You get ozone ear insufflation. All sorts of ways to treat your ozone insufflation for your sinuses. It doesn't just have to be your behind, your other holes. We'll take ozone as well. Vaginal ozone insufflation if you've got issues with that, in terms of infections and so forth. But yeah, Ozone's pretty amazing. And if you go to this guy's YouTube channel, you will find out all of the different ways you could use ozone to treat anything that's, not almost anything that you've got issues with, and how you can use ozone for it, how the product works and how to use the product. Same thing over here with Hydrogen for Health in terms of how to use the product, about the product, and answering all the questions that you've got, which you're never ever going to get from Amazon or Alibaba. So those are my two recommends that I want to point out to you guys. So, and that's where the prices come from. So if you're interested in it, at the end of the day, any one of these is incredible. If you're into healing, if you want to have something in your house that can heal wounds and all sorts of stuff, because you don't want to take drugs, and you don't want to deal with the health insurance and medical, get an appointment, 5-minute visit thing, which I loathe. You just want to take care of yourself. Health and healing, oxygen ozone is awesome for that. If you want to kick it up a notch, go to hydrogen and Brown's gas. Either way, any one of these therapies using gas is, with the medical literature out there, it is absolutely 100% validated. It works. It's incredibly great for you. The price isn't really that high given how much it costs just to, if you end up with a problem, how much you spend overall on pharmaceuticals, etc. So I just really this is a real strong recommendation. As you probably have noted, because I use these gases myself, I'm a real strong proponent. Anyway, well, that's it for gas therapy. And which one is right for you? It depends what your objective is. But there's definitely a gas that can help you with your health, your healing, and anti-aging. There's also different ways you can do it. If you have any questions about the products, any of that kind of stuff, links in the video description. Thank you for watching. Hope this was interesting and helpful for you. Now, if you wanted to know more about me or get some information about some of this stuff, I have a blog at tinkers.academy. Just type that in your URL window, go straight to my blog. And also, too, if you like this type of content, this is what I do. I'm all about a tinker for health and healing. I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching again, and I hope you have a great day. Aloha.